The world used to have color. Not just colors you could see, but colors you could feel, bright and full. Then Sarah died, and everything just went gray. It's been months now, but the silence in the house still screams at me. Every morning I wake up, and for a split second I forget. Then it hits me, a dull ache right behind my ribs, and the day starts all over again. The same muted routine. I live in this quiet house in the United States, surrounded by the ghosts of what used to be. My job is meaningless. My friends feel distant, and every conversation feels like I'm speaking a foreign language. I just exist, really. Just getting through one day to the next, waiting for something, anything, to break this endless quiet loop. Then the dreams started. Not normal dreams, not the kind where you're falling or forgot your pants. These were vivid, almost painfully real. I'd be standing on a high cliff, the wind whipping around me, watching water, so much water, consume everything. Not just a river overflowing, but an ocean swallowing mountains, a relentless, terrifying deluge. And above it all, a light. Not the sun, but something else. A soft, pulsating glow, like a distant star watching from too close. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart hammering, the smell of ozone in my nose, even though there was nothing there. It felt less like a dream, and more like a memory I shouldn't have. A memory of a disaster I never lived through. At first, I brushed them off as grief, my mind playing tricks, trying to process loss by conjuring up grand, apocalyptic scenarios. But then, things started happening outside the dreams. Little things at first. I'd be at the grocery store, and the total would be 11.11. Or I'd glance at the clock, and it would be 3:33 or 4:44, over and over. It wasn't just once or twice, it was constant, almost daily. My brain, once so sharp, now felt like it was being rewired, tuning into some frequency I hadn't noticed before. Then I found an old book in a dusty antique shop, tucked away behind a stack of romance novels. It was a worn copy of ancient flood myths, illustrated with strange, almost geometric designs. I'd never been interested in that kind of stuff, but something pulled me to it. Later that week, an online article about archaeological findings in Turkey mentioned unusual geological formations matching descriptions in ancient texts about a great deluge. It all felt too connected, too specific to be random. The weather started acting weird, too. Not just a bad storm, but a persistent, almost unsettling pattern. In late summer, we had a stretch of days where the sky was this unnatural hue of purple, followed by rain that felt too heavy, too cold for the season. My neighbor's dog, usually a calm, friendly golden retriever, started howling at nothing in the middle of the night, his fur bristling. Birds would fly in strange, erratic patterns, sometimes crashing into windows. It was like the natural world was getting ready for something, buzzing with an energy that I was only just beginning to perceive. A low hum, just at the edge of hearing, seemed to vibrate in the air, and then Sarah. Not her voice, not exactly, but a feeling, a distinct impression in my thoughts, like she was right there, whispering directly into my mind. It wasn't my imagination, I knew it. It was too clear, too specific. "Look closer," she'd impress upon me. Or, "Don't dismiss it." Sometimes it was a specific phrase, sometimes a feeling of urgency that would push me towards a certain article online or make me stop at a particular bookstore. It was like she was guiding me, nudging me down a path I couldn't understand, but couldn't ignore either. It was comforting, in a way, to feel her close again, even if it was in this strange, new form. But it was also terrifying. This whole thing has been incredibly isolating. I tried talking to my sister about the dreams, the numbers, the feeling of Sarah's presence. She just looked at me with pity, her eyes saying, "He's not coping well." My friends, they offer condolences, but they don't understand. How could they? I sound crazy, even to myself. I'm caught between the crushing weight of my grief and this burgeoning, inexplicable reality that's unfolding around me. It feels like I'm standing on a tightrope, with reality on one side and madness on the other. Every step is uncertain. The emotional toll is immense. Some days, I just want to curl up in a ball and disappear, to stop this bizarre journey before it completely breaks me. There's a constant internal conflict. Is it just my mind breaking down? Am I hallucinating because I miss her so much? Or is something truly profound happening? The thought that it might all be grief-induced delusion is a heavy one, and it makes me question everything. But then another dream hits, or another number sequence appears, or I feel Sarah's distinct presence, and the doubt starts to fade. A dawning, terrifying realization begins to settle in. Something is truly unfolding, something ancient and massive, and I'm somehow caught in the middle of it. It's scary, yes, but also compelling. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a shift has begun. The despair, which had been a constant companion, is starting to lift, replaced by a nascent sense of purpose. It's not joy, not happiness, but a drive. The urgency of these unfolding symbols, these whispers from Sarah, they're pushing me forward. It's like I'm being called, not to a specific place yet, but to a specific understanding. The quiet loop of my grief is being broken, not by peace, but by a growing, undeniable sense of destiny. The colors haven't returned yet, but the gray is starting to shimmer with something new, something unknown, and I find myself, for the first time in a long time, looking to see what comes next. The dreams, already vivid, started to get much more detailed. They weren't just flashes of water and light anymore. Now I saw the flood from what felt like 1,000 feet up, watching the world below. It wasn't a story I was being told. It was an experience I was living from a detached aerial perspective. I saw the sheer, overwhelming scale of the water, rising relentlessly. I saw houses, entire towns, swallowed whole. There was no escape, no high ground safe enough. People were running, screaming, but it was all in vain. The futility of human resistance against such a force was heartbreakingly clear. I could almost feel the cold, crushing weight of the water, even though I was watching from above. It was like a giant slow-motion wave washing over everything. These weren't just dreams. They were like memories being downloaded directly into my mind, showing me the catastrophe in an almost clinical, yet terrifying way. The focus wasn't on individual suffering, but on the sheer, unstoppable force of the event itself. These experiences began to bleed into my waking life too. Subtle things at first. A persistent, faint humming sound, almost like a high-pitched drone, that only I seemed to hear. It wasn't constant, but it would appear randomly, sometimes for a few seconds, sometimes for minutes. I'd ask people if they heard it, and they'd just look at me blankly. Then came the visual distortions, fleeting blurs at the edge of my vision, like heat haze on a road. But when I turned my head, they were gone. A shimmer in the air that wasn't there a second before. Nothing dramatic enough to make me question my sanity completely, but enough to keep me constantly on edge, wondering if my eyes were playing tricks on me, or if something else was happening that others couldn't see. It was like the world around me was slightly out of tune, and I was the only one noticing the wrong note. Guided by these internal messages, these nudges from Sarah, I started spending hours online, not just casual browsing, but deep dives into obscure corners of the internet. I stumbled onto ancient texts that spoke of cataclysms, not just floods, but global resets. I found archaeological anomalies, structures that shouldn't exist, and maps that depicted continents in impossible ways. Fringe theories about advanced ancient civilizations, forgotten technologies, and extraterrestrial intervention suddenly didn't seem so far-fetched. Each discovery was like finding a fragmented piece of a massive puzzle, and each piece resonated deeply with the images and feelings from my dreams. It was overwhelming, connecting dots between disparate pieces of information that no mainstream historian would ever link. But to me, it felt like I was finally seeing the hidden threads that wove through human history, threads that explained the impossible things I was experiencing. The more I read, the more I realized how little I truly knew about our past, and how much had been deliberately or accidentally forgotten. My relationship with water completely changed. Rain, which used to be a comforting sound, now felt ominous, heavy with unspoken warnings. I'd watch it fall, and instead of seeing clean drops, I'd see a prelude, a threat. Bodies of water, lakes, rivers, even the ocean seemed to hold hidden secrets, vast and unknowable. I'd stare into them, feeling a strange pull, a sense of something ancient and powerful, lurking beneath the surface. The sound of rain became a deeply unsettling sensory trigger. I'd close my eyes, and I was back in the dream, watching the deluge, feeling the world disappear under the waves. I started avoiding places with large bodies of water, which was difficult, living in a place with so many rivers and lakes. It was like water had become a symbol of both immense power and immense destruction, and I couldn't look at it the same way again. Then there was the feeling of being watched. It wasn't a creepy, malevolent feeling, like someone was trying to hurt me. It was more like an intense curiosity, a constant, unseen presence observing my every move. Sometimes I'd feel a prickle on the back of my neck, turn around, and there would be nothing. But the feeling would persist, a sense of quiet observation, as if I were part of an experiment. It felt like someone, or something, was subtly orchestrating events around me, guiding me, pushing me along this path. It was unsettling, yes, but also strangely reassuring in a way. It meant I wasn't completely alone in this, that there was a purpose to it all, even if I didn't understand it yet. It was like I was a pawn on a cosmic chessboard, and the players were very, very patient. The messages from Sarah became clearer, more direct too. No longer just vague impressions, but almost like thoughts that weren't my own, perfectly formed and distinct. Look beyond the obvious, she'd impress upon me, or trust your intuition, it will guide you. She urged me to seek a specific place, though she didn't name it directly. Instead, she painted a picture in my mind. Arid, ancient, filled with a quiet power. It was a place I'd never considered, never even thought about visiting. But the image was so strong, so compelling, that it started to feel like a destination I had always known. Somewhere deep down, her guidance was my anchor in this swirling sea of strangeness, the one familiar thing in an increasingly alien world. An irresistible urge began to grow within me, a pull towards that remote location. It wasn't a logical decision. It was purely instinctual. My rational mind screamed at me to stay, to not chase these wild goose chases. But the pull was too strong to ignore. It was like a magnet, drawing me towards that arid, ancient land. I researched places that matched the feeling Sarah had given me, focusing on remote areas in the American Southwest, places known for their stark beauty and ancient energies. I packed a bag, bought a cheap plane ticket, and made arrangements to rent a car once I landed. It felt like I was leaving behind everything I knew, my familiar, grief-stricken world, for an unknown destiny. There was a fear, a deep-seated apprehension, but it was overshadowed by a profound sense of inevitability. And so, the journey began. The initial steps were hesitant, filled with a mix of dread and anticipation. I locked the door to my house, not knowing when I'd return, or if I'd ever be the same person when I did. The drive to the airport felt surreal, like I was moving through a dream. Each mile I traveled away from my old life felt like a step into a new one, a pilgrimage into the unknown. I was no longer just a man lost in grief. I was a man on a mission, guided by whispers from beyond and visions of an ancient flood. The destination was still a mystery, but the path was clear, laid out by forces I couldn't comprehend, but now, finally, chose to trust. The physical journey to this remote location was a blur of shifting landscapes and building anticipation. I drove for days, the interstate highways slowly giving way to smaller state roads, then dusty two-lane paths that cut through endless stretches of desert and scrubland. Each mile felt like a step further away from my old life and deeper into this strange, unfolding reality. The air changed, growing drier, carrying the scent of sagebrush and distant dust. The sounds, too, were different. The constant hum of city life, replaced by the vast silence of open spaces, broken only by the wind and the occasional cry of a hawk overhead. I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, my body tired from the long hours behind the wheel, but my mind buzzing with a growing sense of purpose. As I traveled, the synchronicity that had started subtly at home became much more frequent and pronounced. It was as if the universe itself was confirming my direction, nudging me along. I'd see the number sequence 1111 on digital clocks in gas stations, on mileage signs along the highway, or even on the receipts from roadside diners. It wasn't just the numbers. Sometimes it was a specific phrase on a billboard that seemed to speak directly to my thoughts, or a snippet of a song on the radio that perfectly mirrored my internal state. It was too consistent to be coincidence, too frequent to ignore. It felt like breadcrumbs, scattered along the path, assuring me I was heading the right way. Each instance, no matter how small, solidified my belief that I wasn't just aimlessly wandering, but following a carefully laid out plan. Nature seemed to be in on it too, offering its own peculiar omens. One afternoon, driving through a particularly desolate stretch of New Mexico, a massive flock of birds, hundreds of them, suddenly rose from the desert floor. They didn't fly in a chaotic swarm, but formed an almost perfect, slow-moving spiral directly above my car, circling once, twice, before dispersing as quickly as they had appeared. The sky, which had been clear moments before, suddenly darkened for a few minutes, though no storm ever materialized. Another time, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the red rock formations, a strange light appeared on the horizon. It wasn't a star or a plane or any kind of earthly light I recognized. It pulsed softly, a deep blue, for maybe 30 seconds, then simply vanished. These events were fleeting, almost dreamlike, but they left a lasting impression, deepening the sense that I was moving into a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The weight of solitude during this quest was immense. Days passed with minimal human interaction, just me, my thoughts, and the vast, silent landscape. There were moments of profound loneliness, a sharp ache of missing Sarah, and a fear that I was losing my mind, chasing ghosts. But interwoven with that solitude was a growing sense of being part of something vastly ancient and significant. The desert, with its weathered rocks and endless horizons, felt like a living history book, holding secrets millions of years old. My internal struggle between fear and awe continued, but awe was steadily winning. The sheer scale of the natural world around me made my personal fears seem small, almost petty. I was just a tiny part of something so much bigger, and that thought, paradoxically, brought a strange comfort. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I arrived at the specific, isolated location that Sarah's impressions had guided me to. It was a remote mesa in Arizona, a flat-topped mountain rising abruptly from the desert floor, surrounded by miles of untouched wilderness. There were no marked roads leading directly to it, just faint tracks left by off-road vehicles. I parked my rented car at the base and started hiking, the sun already dipping low, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples. The climb was steep, but I felt an energy I hadn't felt in years, a determination that pushed me onward. As I approached the exact spot, a profound sense of peace mixed with overwhelming tension washed over me. The air felt thick, charged with an invisible energy. The sounds of nature, which had been so prominent during my journey, seemed to amplify around me. I could hear the rustle of unseen creatures in the bushes, the distant hoot of an owl, the faint whisper of the wind through sparse desert plants. But beneath these natural sounds, there was something else, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the very ground beneath my feet. It wasn't loud, but it was pervasive, a low thrumming that felt like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then I saw it, a subtle visual cue, a shimmering in the air directly in front of me. It wasn't a heat haze, though. The desert sun had been intense. This was different. The light seemed to bend and distort around a specific point, creating a ripple effect, like looking through disturbed water, but in the dry, still air. It was fleeting, an almost imperceptible distortion of light, but it was there. And then a shadow, not a dark, defined silhouette, but a fleeting, almost translucent form that seemed to pass through the shimmering space. It was distinctly non-human, an outline that defied earthly physics, confirming that my journey had indeed led me to something extraordinary. My breath caught in my throat. The space around me subtly began to transform. The shimmering intensified, and the air crackled with an almost static electricity. The natural sounds, which had been amplified moments before, slowly began to fade, replaced entirely by that deep, resonant hum. It grew in intensity, vibrating not just through the ground, but through my very bones. The air grew warmer, then cooler, as if invisible currents were swirling around me. The light of the setting sun, which had been painting the sky with such beauty, seemed to dim, or perhaps it was just my perception changing. It felt like the veil between dimensions was thinning, dissolving, and I was standing right at the edge, about to step through. This was it. This was the place Sarah had guided me to. This was where everything changed. The light coalesced, not abruptly, but with a slow, deliberate grace that defied earthly physics. It began as a diffuse glow within the shimmering distortion, a soft internal radiance that gradually intensified. Then, from this radiant core, a form began to emerge. It wasn't a sudden appearance, no dramatic flash or thunderclap. Instead, it was like watching mist gather into a solid shape, But instead of water vapor, it was pure, concentrated light. The form grew taller, more defined, shedding the last vestiges of the shimmering air until it stood before me, fully manifest. The entity was elegant, almost impossibly so. It was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with a slender build that seemed to be made of pure energy. Its skin, if one could call it that, had a pearlescent quality, shifting colors subtly with the play of light, like the inside of an abalone shell. There were no harsh angles, only smooth, flowing lines. Its head was elongated, without hair, and its features were delicate, almost ethereal. But it was the eyes that truly held me. They were large, dark, and seemed to contain galaxies within their depths, reflecting an ancient, profound wisdom that stretched back further than human history. They radiated a gentle, internal light that was both comforting and awe-inspiring. Its movements were fluid, almost like it was gliding rather than walking, each gesture deliberate and filled with an unspoken purpose. There was no sense of threat, only an immense, benevolent presence that filled the space around us. The initial shock of seeing something so utterly alien was quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. It was not a calm born of indifference, but one that felt like a powerful, benevolent force was actively soothing my fear, settling my frantic thoughts. The air around me, which had been crackling with energy, now felt warm and comforting, carrying a faint, clean scent, almost like ozone after a summer storm. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, but I didn't need to. Communication wasn't happening through spoken words. The alien's voice wasn't a sound I heard with my ears, but a direct impression in my mind. It was clear, resonant, and ancient, carrying with it a profound sense of history and sorrow, like the echoes of countless ages. It bypassed my conscious thoughts, embedding itself directly into my understanding. It wasn't a language I recognized, yet I understood it perfectly, a telepathic transfer of meaning, emotion, and information. There was no confusion, no ambiguity, only absolute clarity. Then the shared memory began. The alien projected images and sensations directly into my consciousness, not merely telling me, but showing me. It was like I was there, experiencing the great flood through its own cosmic perspective. I saw the earth from above, a vibrant blue marble, then watched as the skies opened, not with rain, but with torrents of water, unlike anything I had ever imagined. It wasn't just falling from clouds. It was as if the very fabric of the atmosphere was unraveling, unleashing an endless deluge. I felt the panic, the overwhelming despair of humanity as the waters rose, swallowing cities, mountains, everything. I saw the futility of their resistance, their small, desperate attempts to survive against an unstoppable force. But I also saw something else. Through the alien's eyes, I witnessed Noah's Ark, not as the simple wooden boat depicted in biblical stories, but as a marvel of engineering, a vessel that shimmered with an internal light, humming with complex energies. It was clearly not of this world, or at least, not of this world's common understanding. The alien's projected memory revealed that Noah's Ark was not merely a wooden vessel designed to preserve species. It was a highly advanced, multi-dimensional craft, designed to safeguard not just a select few animals and humans, but genetic codes, vast repositories of knowledge, and even energetic signatures of life across realities. It was a cosmic lifeboat, built with technology far beyond human comprehension, capable of withstanding not just the physical flood, but also the energetic shifts that accompanied it. It was a sanctuary, a seed bank for a future that was almost wiped clean. The flood, I understood then, wasn't just a terrestrial event. The images embedded in my mind showed it as part of a larger cosmic purging, a necessary recalibration. It was a separation of energetic frequencies, a reset of timelines. The Earth, in this vision, was undergoing a profound transformation, and the flood was a cleansing fire, preparing it for a new phase. It was a critical moment in the cosmic dance, a decision point for an entire planetary system. As these images and understandings flooded my mind, the alien's presence conveyed a sense of urgency. It was a subtle warning, not of immediate danger, but about humanity's current trajectory. I felt the echo of past mistakes, the patterns repeating, the same forces that led to that ancient cataclysm beginning to stir once more. It was a first warning, delivered not with harshness, but with a deep, sorrowful resonance, like a parent cautioning a beloved child about a path they are about to take. The weight of this knowledge settled upon me, heavy yet clear. The alien's silent communication continued, delving deeper into the nature of the Great Flood. It wasn't just a natural disaster, I realized, but a deliberate, necessary intervention. It was orchestrated by higher intelligences, beings whose scope of existence stretched beyond our comprehension, to reset a timeline that had become corrupted. The purpose, as it was impressed upon me, was to prevent a catastrophic universal imbalance. Humanity, in its unchecked growth and spiritual decay, had been tilting the scales, creating ripples that threatened not just Earth, but the delicate cosmic fabric itself. The flood was a drastic measure, a kind of cosmic surgery to excise the cancerous growth before it consumed everything. Noah, I learned, was not just a simple man chosen by a divine being. He was a chosen steward, someone deeply attuned to cosmic frequencies, a spiritual anchor in a world adrift. He wasn't just guided by these higher beings. He was in direct communication with them, receiving blueprints and instructions that transcended earthly understanding. His role was to safeguard the essence of life, not just for Earth, but as a repository for a new beginning across various dimensions. He was a caretaker of potential, a keeper of the flame, ensuring that life's spark would endure even through the most profound darkness. The alien showed me this with such clarity, a vivid tapestry of purpose woven into the fabric of time. The Ark, then, was far more than a wooden boat. The alien projected images of its construction, not with saws and hammers, but with focused energy and materials that shimmered with an inner light. It was a multi-dimensional craft, a blend of organic and energetic materials, capable of traversing not just physical oceans, but also dimensional boundaries. It wasn't just a vessel for animals. It was a vast library of genetic codes, a repository of ancient knowledge, and a sanctuary for energetic signatures of various life forms. It could hold vast amounts of information, preserving the blueprints of countless species, ensuring their survival and eventual reintroduction into a cleansed world. The technology was so far beyond anything we could conceive, a testament to the immense power and foresight of its creators. It was a living, breathing entity in itself, humming with purpose. The alien then shifted its focus, impressing upon me the sentience of Earth itself. Our planet, it explained, is a living entity, with its own consciousness, its own vibrational shifts. Humanity's actions, our collective thoughts and emotions, our destructive tendencies, impacted not just the physical environment, but the very soul of the planet. These impacts, in turn, affected the delicate balance of the cosmos. Every war, every act of hatred, every imbalance sent ripples throughout the universal tapestry. The flood was, in a way, Earth's own defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to heal itself from the wounds inflicted by its inhabitants. It was a stark reminder that we are not separate from nature, but an integral part of a vast, interconnected organism. The concept of parallel timelines and alternate realities was introduced, not as abstract theory, but as a tangible reality. The flood, the alien conveyed, was a pivotal point, a moment when different potential futures for humanity diverged. One path, the one that was reset, led to complete annihilation. Another, the one that Noah and the Ark helped to preserve, allowed for a chance at renewal. It was a branching point, a cosmic decision that sculpted the very flow of time. Our current reality, I understood, is one of the many branches that sprouted from that ancient schism, and the choices we make now are constantly creating new ones. The alien then showed me glimpses of countless flood myths across cultures, not as mere stories, but as distorted memories. They were fragmented truths, echoes of a shared cosmic experience, passed down through generations, warped and reshaped by human interpretation. The Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, the Hindu Matsya Purana, the Mayan Popol Vuh, all of them, in their essence, were faint recollections of that same cataclysm, filtered through different cultural lenses. It was proof, the alien showed me, that humanity inherently remembers, even if its conscious mind has forgotten the true scope of the event. These myths were warnings, lessons embedded in our collective unconscious, waiting to be rediscovered. The weight of this ancient knowledge settled upon me, heavy and profound. The realization that human history was far more complex, far more intertwined with cosmic events than I had ever imagined, was overwhelming. My understanding of reality, of our place in the universe, was shattering and reforming all at once. This wasn't just information, it was a profound responsibility. I was now a custodian of a truth that could shake the foundations of human belief, a truth that demanded to be shared. The alien's presence, though silent, conveyed the immense importance of this burden, the need to carry it with integrity and courage. Then, a brief, unsettling vision of potential future scenarios for humanity flashed in my mind. It wasn't a definitive prophecy, but a series of possibilities, like paths branching in a dark forest. I saw images of environmental collapse, social unrest, and technological advancements used for destructive purposes. But I also saw glimpses of unity, innovation for good, and a profound spiritual awakening. It hinted at choices that lie ahead, stark and clear, and the catastrophic consequences of choosing unwisely. The alien was showing me that while the past had been reset, the future was still very much in our hands, shaped by the choices we make today. The echoes of the past were not just warnings. They were lessons, waiting to be learned. The alien's presence shifted then, a subtle change in the energy it projected. It was as if a new layer of understanding was about to be unveiled, something even more personal than the cosmic history it had just shown me. It began to communicate, not with new visions of ancient floods or cosmic resets, but with images of my wife. Not her face as I had last seen it, but her essence, her light, vibrant and clear. The alien revealed that my deceased wife was not merely a loving partner, a person I had lost to the physical world, but a guiding light. She was a soul deeply connected to my higher purpose, orchestrating the synchronistic events that had led me to this very moment, from what I could only describe as the other side. It showed me how her influence, her subtle nudges, had been woven into the fabric of my daily life since her passing. The seemingly random number sequences, the obscure texts I stumbled upon, even the inexplicable pull towards this remote location, all of it had been carefully, lovingly orchestrated by her. It was a communication beyond the veil, a testament to a connection that transcended physical death. The alien explained how souls on higher planes, unburdened by the limitations of a physical body, could influence the physical world. They could send messages through dreams, through intuition, through that gut feeling that tells you to turn left instead of right, or to pick up a particular book. These weren't random occurrences. They were deliberate, profound acts of love and guidance. Her enduring love and her mission, the alien conveyed, were intertwined. She hadn't just been waiting for me. She had been actively working to ensure I was ready to receive this profound information. Every tear I had shed, every moment of profound grief, had also been a step on a path she was helping to clear. She knew the weight of the knowledge I was about to receive, and she had been preparing me, strengthening my resolve, even when I felt at my weakest. It was a love that didn't end with a heartbeat, but continued to resonate, to guide, to protect. My grief, once a heavy, suffocating burden, began to transform. It didn't vanish, but it shifted, morphing into a deeper understanding of connection and continuity. The raw pain remained, a testament to the depth of my love for her, but it was now infused with a sense of purpose, a cosmic love that stretched beyond the boundaries of life and death. I understood that her absence was merely a change in form, and her loss was a doorway to a greater truth. This wasn't just about me and her anymore. It was about something far, far bigger. The alien revealed that my wife was part of a larger collective consciousness, a group of benevolent beings working to guide humanity. They weren't gods or angels in the traditional sense, but highly evolved souls, dedicated to the spiritual progression of sentient life. Her transition hadn't been an end, but a new beginning for her, a higher calling that allowed her to serve both me and a greater universal purpose. This realization was a catalyst for a profound spiritual awakening within me. It shattered my previous understanding of life, death, and existence itself. The world I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a reality far more expansive, far more interconnected, and infinitely more meaningful. The power of connection, the alien underscored, was not just a human emotion. Love was not merely a feeling. It was a fundamental force that bound the universe together. It was the energy that allowed souls to communicate across dimensions, the glue that held realities in place, the driving force behind all creation. My love for my wife and her love for me was a microcosm of this universal principle. It was a tangible proof of something far grander than I had ever conceived. I now saw her death not as an end, but as a transition. It was a shift in her form and function, allowing her to serve a greater purpose, to become a beacon that guided me through my darkest moments and towards this extraordinary encounter. The sorrow of her physical absence would always be a part of me, but it was now tempered by an exhilarating sense of her continued presence, her enduring guidance from a place beyond my immediate sight. This revelation, more than any other, healed a part of me I thought was permanently broken. It didn't erase the pain, but it wrapped it in understanding, in a profound sense of peace. I was not alone. I had never truly been alone. Her love, it turned out, was truly eternal. The alien's final insights into my wife's role had profoundly altered my perception of reality, but its gaze then shifted, taking on an intensity that conveyed a new, urgent message. It was as if the cosmic being was signaling a change in topic, moving from personal revelation to a broader, more pressing concern. Humanity, it conveyed through the silent language of thought and image, was once again at a critical juncture. The echoes of the past, the very same patterns of ignorance and division that had led to the Great Flood, were growing louder. We were facing decisions that would determine our fate, not just for a generation, but for countless timelines stretching into the future. Images flashed through my mind: melting ice caps, raging storms, societies fractured by conflict, and a pervasive sense of unease gripping the world. It wasn't a prophecy of doom, but a stark depiction of potential outcomes, a visual representation of paths we were currently treading. The alien described the current energetic shifts on Earth, a vibrational acceleration that was forcing humanity to confront its shadows. It was like a cosmic alarm clock, urging us to wake up, to look inward, and to choose our path consciously. This wasn't a slow, gradual evolution. It was a rapid, intense period of transformation, a time when every thought, every action, carried amplified weight. The alien then projected an image of me, not as the grieving man I had been, but as a figure standing among others, radiating a quiet strength. It emphasized the importance of awakened individuals, like myself, as conduits for truth and catalysts for change in the collective consciousness. We weren't meant to be saviors, but rather guides, sharing what we had learned to help others see beyond the illusions. The message was clear. My experience, my transformation, was not just for me. It was a piece of a larger puzzle, a tiny spark intended to ignite a greater fire of awareness. The concept of diverging timelines, which had been hinted at before, was now revisited with a stark warning. Humanity was currently on a path that could lead to a less desirable or even catastrophic reality. It was like standing at a fork in the road, with one path leading to harmony and advancement, and the other to self-destruction. The alien didn't condemn, but simply presented the facts, the energetic trajectories it observed. This wasn't about judgment, it was about consequence. Our collective choices were literally shaping the fabric of our future existence. Then came the profound call to action. The alien's message became an urgent plea, urging me to share this knowledge, to awaken others, and to encourage humanity to choose a path of unity and consciousness. It wasn't a command, but a deeply felt invitation, a passing of the torch. My role, it seemed, was to be a messenger, to articulate the silent wisdom I had received, to translate the cosmic into the comprehensible. The sheer weight of this responsibility settled upon me, heavy but also strangely exhilarating. It was the purpose I had unknowingly sought since my wife's passing. The alien then highlighted the immense power of humanity's collective thoughts and intentions in shaping its future. It showed me visions of countless human minds, individually small, but collectively forming a powerful energetic field. This field, when coherent and focused, could shift realities, heal the planet, and transcend limitations. Our thoughts weren't just internal chatter. They were building blocks of our shared experience. This was both a warning and an incredible promise. We held the power to create our own heaven or hell, both individually and collectively. The nature of free will was stressed. While guidance was offered, while the cosmic currents pointed towards certain outcomes, the ultimate choice rested squarely with humanity. We were not puppets of destiny, but active co-creators. This wasn't about being told what to do, but about being shown the potential consequences of our actions and empowered to make informed choices. The alien wasn't here to intervene directly in our free will, but to provide the clarity needed for us to exercise it wisely. The communication concluded with a somber but hopeful warning. The path ahead was challenging, filled with obstacles and resistance. There would be skepticism, fear, and inertia. But humanity, the alien conveyed with a deep sense of conviction, possessed the inherent capacity for transformation and ascension. We carried within us the seeds of greatness, the potential to evolve beyond our current limitations. It was a message that acknowledged the darkness, but illuminated the immense light within us. The choice was ours, and the time to make it was now. The alien's presence, though silent, vibrated with an anticipation that was both ancient and immediate. I felt a profound shift within me, a recalibration of my entire being. I was no longer just a man. I was a recipient of cosmic wisdom, entrusted with a vital message. The light that had defined the alien's presence began to soften, to diffuse at its edges. It didn't vanish with a flash or a dramatic fade, but rather, it slowly unwove itself from the air, like a tapestry being unstitched thread by thread. The shimmering distortion around its form relaxed, and the subtle hum that had resonated deep within my chest gradually subsided. As its form became less distinct, blending back into the ambient light of the remote landscape, I felt a gentle push, a final, lingering impression of profound peace and an overwhelming sense of purpose. Then it was gone. The air, which had been charged with an almost palpable energy, settled back into the familiar, crisp coolness of the desert night. The sounds of the natural world, which had been muted during our interaction, slowly returned. The distant chirping of crickets, the soft rustle of dry brush in the breeze. Everything looked the same, yet everything felt irrevocably changed. The world I had known just moments before was now seen through a completely new lens. I stood there for a long time, the silence of the desert enveloping me, pregnant with the immensity of what had just transpired. I was left with an immense burden of knowledge, a truth so profound it challenged everything I once believed. My previous understanding of history, of science, of spirituality, had been shattered and reassembled into something far more vast and interconnected. The world looked the same, but it was not. I was not. The man who had driven here, seeking answers, was gone. In his place was someone new, someone charged with a cosmic secret. The new mission was crystal clear in my mind. The alien's departure hadn't left a void, but a precise directive. My purpose now was to share this extraordinary revelation, to be a messenger for a truth that could alter humanity's trajectory. It was a daunting task, I knew. The world was full of skeptics, and my story, told plainly, would sound like the ravings of a madman. But the urgency of the message, the profound importance of humanity's choices, burned within me like a steady flame. I couldn't ignore it. I wouldn't. A complete internal shift had occurred. My grief, which had been a constant companion, a heavy cloak I wore every day, was now different. It hadn't vanished entirely, but it had transformed. It was no longer a paralyzing weight, but a source of resolve, a testament to the enduring power of connection that the alien had emphasized. Fear, too, had receded, replaced by a quiet courage. The confusion that had plagued me since my wife's passing, the frantic search for meaning, had given way to an undeniable clarity. I was no longer just a man mourning his wife. I was a custodian of cosmic knowledge, a reluctant but determined participant in humanity's unfolding destiny. My immediate plans began to form, clear and precise. I knew I needed to start sharing my story, perhaps through this very platform, the one where I had initially sought solace and a sense of connection. I understood the skepticism I would face. I anticipated the ridicule, the accusations of delusion. the well-meaning but ultimately dismissive pity. But none of that mattered compared to the urgency of the message. The alien had shown me the stakes, the potential futures, and I couldn't remain silent. I would speak my truth, simply and directly, and trust that the message itself, imbued with the energy of its source, would resonate with those who were ready to hear it. And through it all, there was the enduring connection to my wife. Her subtle presence, which had guided me through dreams and synchronicities, was still there. It wasn't the raw, aching presence of grief, but a warm, affirming energy. It was a source of strength, a quiet validation that I was on the right path, that her love, far from being lost, had simply transformed into a guiding light. Her death was not an end, but a transition, a part of this larger cosmic dance, allowing her to serve a greater purpose. This understanding brought a peace I hadn't thought possible. So I turned my attention to you, the audience, those who have followed my fragmented journey, my descent into what many would call madness. I appeal directly to you now, asking you to consider the implications of my story. Look beyond the conventional narratives, beyond the comfortable boundaries of what you believe to be real. Question your own realities. Open your minds to the possibility that our history is far more complex, far more ancient, and far more intertwined with cosmic events than we have ever been told. What if the myths and legends, the flood stories found in every culture, are not just stories, but distorted memories of a real, cosmic intervention? What if Noah's Ark was not just a wooden boat, but a vessel of advanced technology, preserving life and knowledge across dimensions? This is just the beginning of a much larger journey. Not just for me, but for all of us. This awakening, this confrontation with profound truths, is an unfolding destiny. It hints at future revelations, at continued exploration of these cosmic truths that lie just beyond the veil of our everyday perception. I have been given a piece of the puzzle, and now it is my responsibility to share it. The choice, as the alien stressed, is ultimately ours. We stand at a crossroads, and the path we choose will define not just our future, but the future of this planet and our place in the cosmos. I have told you what I know, what I have seen, what I have felt. Now, what will you do with it? The conversation, I believe, has only just begun.